Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm happy to introduce Tim Cummings, who is the author of the award-winning coming-of-age novel Alice the Cat. He holds an MFA in creative writing from Antioch University, Los Angeles, and a BFA from NYU, as do I.
Hey, right on.
NYU.
No pun intended.
He has appeared in more than 200 projects across theater, dance, film, television, voiceover, and new media. Tim teaches writing for UCLA's Writers Program, runs private workshops, and coaches authors. In addition to his passion for storytelling, Tim is an octopus and spider enthusiast. He goes wild for anything with 8 legs. Learn more at www.timcummings.inc. Everyone, please welcome Tim Cummings.
Thank you so much. So the way that we'll do this is I'm going to read from chapter 1 of this book, and then I'm going to introduce my amazing guests here, and we're going to have a conversation about this book and about something that really interested me, this notion of like spooky magic and storytelling, of which this time of year is no shortage. And there's some speculative and spooky stuff in this book in terms of what happens with these kids. And Silas and Bree here are no strangers to spooky magic and storytelling because of their many years as stars of the show GRIMM. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff, and I'd also love to hear from all of you about what resonates for you with the spooky and the speculative, and why we adapt the energy that we do at this time of year. Because it's crazy, and it gets crazier every year. And it shows up a lot in stories. And I'm interested in like what's happening scientifically in the brain and the heart and the mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. Sound good? Thank you for being here. There's supposed to be a big crowd, but it's intimate, and that's better, right? It's not how many, it's who many.
I like that.
You know, I have a little story to tell you about that. One of the first plays I ever did in Los Angeles, I was new to Los Angeles. I'd come from New York City where I was working on Broadway.
Hello. Woo.
And I came to New York, to LA, and did this play where like 6 people came a night.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, people weren't kidding about how tough LA is. But one night, we had to do a performance, and it happened to be Oscar night. And 2 people came. And the cast was like, we're not going on. Equity says we don't have to go on. And I said, well, as equity deputy, I'm going to veto that and say, we're going out there and doing the show. And they were like, fuck you. We're not doing the show. We don't have to do the show if there are more people in the cast than are in the show. And I was like, I'm sorry, we're doing the play. To me, it was important that we do the play and that the play have whatever resonance because nobody was there. Because we were shadowed by Oscar, which I thought was perfect because we were in the middle of Hollywood at a small theater. You could hear the helicopter above us. And so it was a play called Closer by Patrick Marber. I'm sure you guys know it. And it was a very charged performance that night. Everybody hated me. Everybody was so mad at me. I could see it in their eyes. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of anger because everyone was so mad that we had to do this. The next day I find out there's this casting director named April Webster in the audience. She's probably the biggest casting director in the world. And she was there that night.
Mm-hmm.
So, and because she was there and we did the show, she started calling me in for stuff. So the next day at the show I was like, to the cast. And that's why I say it's not how many, it's who many. So whoever among you is Steven Spielberg's son.
I will take your number.
So I'm going to read from the opening chapter of The Lightning People play. Chapter 1, The Lightning People. My little brother Baxter sees things he calls the lightning people, but he will not tell me who or what they are. It's driving me up a rat hole. I don't even know what a rat hole is. I think I saw it in a dream, or maybe one of Max's video games, but it sounds like something that I, Kirby Daniel Renton I, would be driven up. About a month ago, Pop abandoned us and disappeared. Dad asks me not to say that. It's not true, he says. We've separated for now, and he's in Texas with Grambuela, and that's all there is to it. Yeah, but still, I tell him. Don't but still me, he says. There is no but still. Yeah, but still. After Pop abandoned us and disappeared, Bax started having seizures. Usually in the middle of the night, the darkest part of the night. That's when they happen. That's when he sees things. Monsters or aliens or people or witches, I don't know exactly. We slink down from the lightning in a dark purple sky full of puffed up clouds. He says they show him things. What things? I ask him. And I get all fidgety, probably from nerves. Tell me. But he refuses. They're not yours, he says. They're mine. He wants to keep them all to himself. He'll be 11 in a few months. He one-ups everything constantly. The other morning, I got more marshmallows than him in my bowl of Lucky Charms. He tossed his spoon across the kitchen island and stormed off. I want to know about the lightning people because I kind of have this thing with my brains. Dad calls it my magic, but I've heard others, like my teachers, say it might be mild OCD or symmetry OCD. OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. A lot of S sounds, like a snake is about to uncoil and bite you in the face and suck out your face juices. But it actually means you like to be orderly, or at least that's what it means for me. For some people, in severe cases, it's pretty high key, as in buying 250 toothbrushes and throwing them out after using them for a millisecond because germs get on them so they can't use them anymore. A millisecond. We saw the doctor about this years ago, but I'm not diagnosed. He told us that if it was not impeding on my day-to-day life in a negative way, then not to worry. It could be OCD, or something else, or a million other things, or it could just be me. I organize stuff. Not just books and boxes and junk drawers. It includes people and feelings too. I see people's feelings as if they were colors, and I want to organize them. Feelings look like colored pencils that need to be put next to each other in the right way in the colored pencil box. When I see colors, I move them around. No one really knows about this stuff. No, I mean, my best friends Rockford and Ellie know, but they're all whatevs. We love you. And Thaddeus Krasinski. He heads up youth theater. That's our theater club at Weirville Junior High. And yes, we call it Youth Eater all the time. Oh, theater, Theatre, is the act itself, while theater, Theater, is the space where it happens. Krasinski is particular about that RE versus ER thing. He knows about my brains because I told him after I rearranged the plays and books on the shelves in his office. Beige, blue, green, orange, purple, red, white, yellow. Alphabetical by color. Colorvetical. I need to know the lightning people are not going to hurt my brother, but it's hard to figure out because I can't go up inside his head while he's having a seizure. Doctor of Brains, that's the neurologist dude, he told us that the electrical pathways in the brain get mixed up for epileptics. That's the condition that causes seizures. Epilepsy. Bax was placed inside a monster x-ray machine that looked like a giant robot butthole so that Doctor of Brains could figure out what was going on. He said that Bax was an anomaly for being able to remember anything that happened during a seizure. He said that was not normal at all, because usually people go unconscious. All I wanted to know, and all I kept asking was, why? How could this all just happen? What is it? Where did it come from? Why did it pick Bax? I mean, stuff doesn't just happen. But the doctor said, well, yeah, actually, it does. So, I told Dad my theory, that it's his fault Pop left. No, hear me out, okay? Pop is Bax's favorite person in the whole world, and the fact that he could leave Bax, is what made his brains explode inside his head, and that's what's causing his seizures. Now, after I told Dad this very wise theory of mine, that it was all his fault, he grounded me for the summer. Okay, fine, a few weeks, maybe 3. But it felt like the whole summer because During summer, when you're free, every day is a huge day, and to have 21 of them robbed from you for telling the truth, it may as well have been all 75. Drove me up a rat hole, I swear. And now Bax is changing. I see it. He's growing younger. Bax has always been the smartest kid in any class. He likes to dress like a professor. Dad and Pop would buy him suits and nice shoes to wear to school. He doesn't like to look like other kids. He likes to look like Charles Xavier from X-Men. He's always put together, even though he's a little maniac and he plays football and freeze tag during recess. In the suits. We're used to this. How dirty he is when he comes home, so we don't worry. Other people think he's lit. The nice ties and his big expressive eyes and his shock of hair combed nicely with pomade. But ever since Pop abandoned us and disappeared, and Bax's seizure started, now he wants to look like a stick of fruit stripe gum. He wears t-shirts with colored stripes on them, bright sneakers, his hair is a mess. He looks normal. But if this is normal, it's the weirdest normal ever. And the real question anyway is, how do I get him to tell me about the lightning people? I need to know who they are and what they want. Here's the thing, I will not let anything bad happen to Bax. Thank you.
Also, it's like a world-class actor. Just did a little brief reading.
Oh, thank you.
An extra bonus for the night.
Thank you. So, welcome everybody. I want to introduce two extraordinary guests, Silas Weir Mitchell
Hello, I'm Silas.
and Bree Turner. And for those of you who might be fans of the show GRIMM, you might know them as Monroe and Rosalie.
That is right, Rosalie and Monroe. Or Rosalie.
Rosalie. In the year 2016, I did a play with an actor named Lucas Near Verbruga, who had done a spot on GRIMM. He was a recurring guest star.
That's right.
And the producers and showrunners of GRIMM happened to be at this performance. And after they saw the show, they called my people and said, we need that guy for a role we can't cast on GRIMM. And I was like, oh, awesome. So I went in, I had to do the whole thing. I had to go to the casting director who was like, and the other casting director who was like, and the producers who were like,
I doubt it.
no, it's true. But of course, because the producers of the show wanted me, I got it. And then I got to go to Portland for 2 weeks and shoot this incredible episode where I played this horrifying creature, but also like a sweet, sad man. And
I don't know if you guys are familiar with this show. It was on from 2011 to 2017 on NBC, but I'm not a stage actor, I'm an on-camera actor, so can you hear me? I might need a mic. You good? It's a magical realism, which is why, Tim thought of us to come, but it takes place about a detective based on the Brothers Grimm. He plays a contemporary Grimm, and as a police detective, his gifts are revealed in his adult life out of nowhere, and he starts seeing things that no one else can see, and he starts solving cases because a lot of these, criminals happen to be Vesson, which is what they were called. But Silas and I he plays a werewolf and I play a fox, and we're like in a human form, but then when we sort of like hide our true selves and exist with normal people, but when we become agitated or emotional or
Frightened,
when we're off our,
when we're deregulated.
When we're deregulated, then our inner self comes out.
But only Grimms can see it.
Yeah. Anyway.
To the normies, we would just look really like mad. Like, get out of here! But if you do that in front of a Grimm who has the gift, and he's the only one, his aunt dies in the first episode, and that's why it passes on to him. he would. That's why for him it's like, what the f- is happening to me? It's because his aunt died. He now has this magic power. If I, as a blue bod, as a werewolf creature, had that reaction in front of him, he would see me turn into a creature. Whereas normies, muggles, regular people would just see an angry man.
Anyways, Tim played a creature.
Oh God!
It
It was a bird creature
It was
who
a
you
bird
needed to
creature.
find corpses. What did you need to find?
So
to feed your parents.
he was a freaky looking bird of prey called a Barbados ossifraga, and he had 2 aging parents who couldn't hunt anymore, and so this guy could smell. His name was Charlie, and he was a big sort of oafish, galumphing kind of sad fellow, and he would find crimes happening in nearby parks and people who were about to die, or he would visit sites of car accidents, hospitals, and then he would kidnap them in his weird van and run them over several times to liquefy them, suck their guts out, bring them home, and regurgitate in his parents' mouths.
It was so fucking excuse my French. It was so disgusting.
But it's like an episode that I'm like famous for because people are like, "You're the bird."
Yes.
They let us do some weird stuff.
It's good.
They
It's a good
let
show
us-
if you watch. But Tim is such an incredible actor
It's true.
that,
This is true.
and this is so much a part of just why my heart is so broken open with this book is that Tim's approach to his own artistry, like what you read on the script, what you read on the page, and then what Tim decided to do with it was so heartbreaking. Of this sort of like prison sentence he was in with his parents, his like aging parents and caretaking and like doing things that you just don't duty bound, and it just was a beautiful performance if you want to check it out.
Oh, thank you. I remember when we were working on it and they were saying like, what do you think about this? And I said, I think he should apologize to everybody he's about to kill. And they were like,
That's cool.
what? And I was like, yeah, he should be like, I'm so sorry about this.
Because you have to do it.
Yeah, because he had to do it. So I thought that was cool that they kind of added that in. But anyway, cut to several years later, after doing that show, Bree and I were cast in a play together in Los Angeles where we played brother and sister in this incredible play called Cal and Camo by William Francis Hoffman.
I think we had one night with 2 people.
Yeah, we did. In the house. Yeah, it happens. It's amazing. It's very humbling.
It was my best work.
It was your best work. But so then, and we didn't have any scenes during GRIMM. I didn't even meet you.
No.
We
No.
did, right? We had that
We
scene
did,
where
yeah,
I
in
had
the
to like
park,
smell
yeah.
like a corpse and
Yeah.
draw you towards me.
Yeah.
Like I was in a ditch,
Yeah.
like with like dead animals, something around
Yeah.
me to draw him towards me.
Yeah.
I remember you walking across the park.
Yeah. Yeah. So years later, after doing this
So cool.
episode, they came into my life in a different way, which is really extraordinary. So that's what brings us to the present moment and why I wanted to propose this event. I was going back and forth with the Village Well for about 6 months trying to find a night to do this event and a theme to explore. So, a lot of people who've read this book and in a lot of other events have talked about what happens in this book, which if you don't know, these kids, they put up a play, Kirby and his friends put up a play to raise money for a seizure alert dog. Because the neurologist says, this is something you should consider getting. And it's too much money. Seizure alert dogs cost like $50,000. And we all know how easy it is in our country to
Raise $50,000.
yeah, or the whole medical landscape in this country, right? So Kirby has this brilliant idea to, write a play based on the lightning people that Baxter sees and these symbols that come into their lives that the lightning people show Baxter. And to make a long story short, the play opens a portal. It's not a portal like Jodie Foster goes through in Contact to another world, or like
Or the end of, never mind.
yeah.
Or the end of something I won't talk about. Never mind.
Oh,
Spoiler alert. Never
like
mind.
like it's not a portal like a wormhole that you go through. It's kind of a portal like the openings into other dimensions and stuff comes through and helps us in our world, right? Like a day of like where you have 6 coincidences and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Things like that, like weird things aligning, everyday magic.
Tapped in.
Yes, tapped in, perfect things happening, the unexplainable, but and it's because they're daring to make a difference, these kids. They're using their skills to help somebody solve a problem. As a theater kid, theater saved my life a million times. I started doing it when I was 11 years old. So I understand its strange magic and its strange power. And as somebody who survived a brother who died from epilepsy, I wanted to find a way to mash these two things together. It took me a long time to figure it out. Once the dog showed up, everything made sense. And I tell this to my students. You have a story problem, put an animal in it, and the problem goes away. This is true for my first book as well. Once the dog came in, I was like, that's it. That's the bridge between theater and epilepsy. They used theater to get the dog. Aha! And then everything kind of fell into place. But to mash these two things up, because it's hard to write about epilepsy.
Had you known about that that type of dog exists? Therapy
Yes.
dog? So you were aware of?
Yeah. I mean, service animals are incredible. So the book is also an homage to service animals. But epilepsy can be a tricky thing to know how to write about because it's a very violent thing and it's a thing that's not explored a lot. Growing up, I never saw it represented in TV shows, in movies, in books, nothing. It was a weird, dark, creepy little secret in our family, even though everybody knew he had it. He had these terrible seizures. He would have them in the middle of the night, and I shared a room with him growing up. And to make a long story short, I always felt like there was something in the room with us when he would have a seizure. Like an entity I couldn't see, whether it was a protective force or something keeping me away, I never knew. But when I sat down to write this book, I think my subconscious opened and a lot of stuff that had been in there since I was a child came out in the form of the lightning people and the symbols. I don't know who they are. I don't know what any of it means. I don't want to know. It's for the reader to decide. It's speculative. There's no answers in it. It's kind of like, here it is. I don't know what it means. I was very, very specific about not being didactic about it. Like, here's who they are and what they mean. I mean, there's some conjecture about it from the kids at some point, but even that is just conjecture. So that part of it, that kind of spooky part of it, plays into a aspect of storytelling that I wanted to explore, and especially with you two. You know, when you and I asked this when we got together in our Zoom the other day, but did you have some connection to spooky, speculative, dark, creepy, hooey kind of stuff before this show came into your life? Did it manifest while you were doing the show? Did weird stuff happen while you guys were on the show?
The thing that happened to me was, it wasn't like events happened, but my view of the world changed. And I started to recognize the monstrosity that is in the world. And I would watch the news while we were just beginning and the show was like flooding into me. I realized that the show is talking about real stuff, that people are monsters.
Right.
That they're among us.
Right.
And that the show is bringing a reality of... One of the best things about the show was sort of answering questions about what's going on in the real world with the mysterious. In other words, it's Van Gogh cut his ear off not because he had X, Y, or Z issue. It's because he was this type of vessel. He was this type of creature. So there were world events that would be answered in terms of this secret reality that only certain people knew about, like an occult reality. And that to me changed my view of the world pretty radically. It sort of opened a portal in my mind to recognizing dark forces that exist in reality. And also, not all dark, but at the beginning it felt like that. Like watching the local news, I'd be like, oh, that guy's a vessel. Like, that guy, that mugshot, that fucker is a vessel. But also the not necessarily bad stuff, things that we don't understand. It opened me to what is really going on here, with the answer to that being a kind of narrative, magical reality. And that's not exactly what's happening in this book, but the book is dealing with, well, it is in a way. It's kind of like what's happening in this medical event with Bax has this magical undercurrent, and that it kind of underlies something that unless you're available to it, you don't know it. It's just a kid having an attack. But if you're available to different ways of looking at the world, you see the magic. And that to me has stayed with me in my life. But it's a matter of how you see the world.
And also it feels like with Kirby, we just, Silas and I and the rest of our cast, our show was a global success, and a lot of it was because we at first dealt with like the classic Grimm's fairy tales that we all know, right? A lot of them based in German folklore, but ultimately it moved into, we dealt with many cultural wars, right? So we're on we have global success, but we have just this super devoted fan base. We, as a cast, we just got back last weekend. We do these fan conventions, and there are these. They're all over the country, and it's just been an incredible opportunity. I've done them this year for the first time. We are meeting 24-year-olds who were watching the show when they were like 7.
Yeah.
And the thing that they keep saying is that the show is their comfort food. Like, this is like a violent, dark show. And kids and grandmas are watching it together. Yeah. And at first, back in the day, I was like, you shouldn't be watching this. But now, I feel so much pride being a part of something that has touched so many people. And I bring this up with Kirby's experience of making sense of his brother's events. So many fans, it's incredibly moving to me, are people that are dealing with really horrible circumstances in their life. We had the fortune of shooting in Portland exclusively for those 7 years, and we had we have an endowment for the Dornbecker Children's Hospital, so we would go regularly to go meet with families, because Grimm was like these kids' favorite show. Yeah. Kids who are like on chemo or have incurable diseases in their families are sleeping there, and it's just like unimaginable, right? And they would all get together and watch Grimm. And you just, with this genre, it's really opened up my thinking of needing to, even though it's speculative and it's not like understood, when there is something going on in the body that is so mysterious, to be able to just reason with it in the magical realm, I really see directly with the fans of Grimm how critical that is for their for just their healing, right? And you look at Kirby's journey through this book. What's so beautiful, Tim, and we talked about this the other night, is like everything's not wrapped up in a pretty bow at the end of this book. Like, you know, the parents are struggling. It's not like the epilepsy goes away, but art and the act of doing of it is healing. It's healing for the community. It's healing for the family. And so, just to link it with my experience being on a genre show, that it's really like, it's my first genre show I've ever been a part of, and I find it just to be so amazing. Like, it's like so lucky because of directly meeting people.
The connection with the fans.
And like, this is like essential. You know, it's like essential.
And
for
also
healing.
the theater in the book is is part of the magic in the book, you know. And I love that there's a beautiful passage in the book where someone asks what the magic is, and then there's this beautiful couple of paragraphs about Kirby's thought process, and he decides to say it, and the last word of the chapter is theater.
Oh yeah.
It's really beautiful because it brings, theater is practical magic.
Yeah, it's Mara
My
Gecko.
favorite character.
Oh yeah.
Probably because I always wanted to be a Mara, but I never was. I was more of an Ellie.
Yeah.
You know, I would have been cast as an Ellie, but I really wanted to be a Mara.
Mara Gecko is a young girl in their theater troupe who is very strange. She has her own language, or not a language at all. And she loves theater more than anything, but she's not like any of the other theater kids. She's a misfit among misfits. But Kirby intuits that she should be the one to play his brother, even though giving her lines is not a guarantee that she's going to speak them, but they have to watch how she interprets it in her own way. But through doing this play, her parents, her parents watch her blossom in a way she hasn't, and what's going on with her is connected to something that happened when she was a child that is very visceral. But the parents ask him, they kind of go to him imploringly and say,
What is this magic you're doing?
what have you done to our daughter?
And they use that word,
Yeah.
right? They say, what is this magic?
And Kirby has a thought process about it, and then he says, I know what it is, so I just say it. Theater. Right? And that comes from life, certainly.
Yeah.
You know, last night I had this incredible experience of going to Hollywood Forever Cemetery to see Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh,
God,
great.
so many people went as Freddy at this convention. It's like every
Oh, yeah.
third person was Freddy.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But I saw that movie when I was 11 years old. And I know, but we're Gen X, so
Too
I was
late.
not too young.
Right. It was just right.
I saw that movie when I was so young, and I remember the visceral reaction that I had to it, even though I'd seen many horror movies before that, because I had older siblings who, when it was time to babysit me, they would sit me down and be like, watch The Exorcist. I was 5.
No.
Watch Halloween. Anyway, I remember seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street and thinking, this is genuinely scary. This really, really scared me when I was a kid. But what was so amazing about that one, different from all the others, was the character of Nancy Thompson, played by Heather Langenkamp, fought back really hard against Freddy. And they made it very concrete that she was doing this. She was righteous. She yelled at people. She fought her parents. She made booby traps to trap Freddy. She figured out what was going on. She devised a plan. She was taking revenge. And I just remember at this time in my life, all the other females in horror movies that had been chased by maniacs never really fought back. They were just victims. All of a sudden, Nancy Thompson is like, fuck you, Freddy! And really fights him. At that time in my life, stuff was crazy dealing with my brother's epilepsy. My dad was a New York City fire captain. He was a heavy drinker and a very intimidating man. I was really badly bullied growing up. So I had monsters in my life. I had my own version of the kids at school were Freddy Krueger. My dad was Freddy Krueger. My brother's epilepsy was Freddy Krueger. My mom's inability to do anything about all of this was Freddy Krueger. So watching this movie where I felt genuinely scared, I was like, that's a mirror. That's how I feel. And Nancy fighting back against Freddy is exactly the ammo that I need. And you will hear 9 out of 10 Gen X gay men say, horror movies saved my life. For this reason, because they were able to find a safe place to be like, that's where I can project all of this darkness on these monsters who are doing these terrible things to women, right? And the whole psychology in our society of why it's always women, the final girl, the whole thing, right? All the final girls. So spooky magic and storytelling, right? This is, if you look up why people love scary movies, it always has a really strong psychological bend. And it has to do with us needing to see ways that we have to survive against our monsters. And for whatever reason, horror movies do it. And some people like them really dark, like the Eli Roth shit,
That's too much for
which
me.
is too much.
That's like torture porn. I
Yeah,
can't
but
do
some
that.
people, like people who've been badly sexually assaulted and stuff and have dealt with physical abuse, get comfort from that. And other people like a simple ghost story without any blood and without any special effects, because the suspense and the sense of mystery helps them relate to something that they grew up with that they still can't figure out. So these movies are like therapy.
How was your experience writing this?
Really joyous, because writing about theater, I know a lot about theater, and I was curious to see what would come out, how I would use this knowledge and this skill. You know, the old adage, like, write what you know, like writers write what you know, which is a crock of crap. But it's definitely useful when I was writing about this to just understand the nuances and not have to push on it too hard. I mean, this is a very voicey book because he's a voicey guy, and it's written in first person present tense. So you have to be inside his head for the duration of it. But it was very joyous, and writing about the epilepsy was cathartic because I got to explore it and still not figure it out, because that's how it remains in my life. It was a great mystery growing up. Nobody could figure it out. Nobody could fix it. And then he died horribly from one of his seizures, leaving like a tendril, you know, like kind of flapping in the wind in this weird kind of way. So it felt joyous and cathartic, but not cathartic in a cheesy way. Cathartic in a, God, I've come this far. I have a responsibility as a storyteller. I want my storytelling to be a service job. I think that probably how I grew up. My dad, again, was a fireman. I grew up around a lot of cops and a lot of firemen and a lot of men like that. And so I think it was ingrained in me to like make sure what you're doing with your life is of some service to the world. It took me a little while to figure that out as an artist. But once pieces come into your life that you say, this is an important piece for society and for people to see for a variety of reasons, right?
Well, I so appreciate that is said out loud, you know. Also coming out of, teenagers, early teens, I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and like the absolute commitment to like everything you feel at that age it's also just it's so beautiful to hear it come out of their mouths, because it means every single solitary word that they're saying is in their bones. And so when they reference like that, it is essential. It's essential work. Theater, being a director, Kirby, is essential. It's essential service work. I don't know if there are writers here in here with us, but to reference Krasinski, did you, with your processing of writing this, I'm not a writer, so your work ethic of writing this, how you go to work every day, did you, how he says, like, don't talk about it, right? You know, did you hold that to yourself? Like, did you talk about it? Did you release it out while it was still in process, or was this a very, talk about that?
I kept it close to the bone. A lot of people were really curious what I was going to write after Alice the Cat, which was my debut novel. This book takes place in the same fictional world that I created for that book. Sort of like how Stephen King has Castle Rock and Stranger Things has Hawkins. Yeah, I wanted to create a kind of, just this new miniature city, subtropolis. I remember asking the question when I was in grad school. I took an amazing lecture that had to do with where stories take place and why, the exterior, and how it should be a reflection of the interior. And I remember thinking, why do we not have any new cities? No, seriously, like where are they?
Where are all the new cities?
Like, it's just like they just stopped making them at some point. They were like, no more after Louisville. I don't know, like after Pittsburgh, no more cities. I don't really know what the answer is. I just know that I was very deeply questioning, like, why are there no new cities? How did that happen? So I scoured maps of the country, and I saw this incredibly vast swathe of land right on the Pennsylvania and Ohio border, south of Cleveland and north of Pittsburgh, that was evidently is like reserved for hunting only. And I was like, oh no, I'm taking that away. Because I don't want this swathe of land where people are just going and killing animals. So I imagined that somebody like Oprah, or like Jeff Bezos, if he wasn't a dick rocket asshole, would take some of his billions and put it toward something like creating a new city, and I imagine that it was built in the years following.
As opposed to renting an ancient one?
Yeah. Weirville was born in the years following September 11th, as a little bit of a respite, as a safe place for the many different types of cultures that we have in America, what the whole country is supposed to be based on, right? Bring me your poor, you're tired. You know, we have all this diversity, and now everybody doesn't want it. Not everybody, but a good portion of the country. Whereas this was a little subtropolis. It was suburban and metropolitan at the same time. So that was where Weirville came from. This kind of imagined town. But yeah, when I was writing it, I kept it close to the bone, also because I wasn't sure if I had anything good. You really don't know. When you write a book, you don't know what the book is until after you finish a first draft. And then the book will start to whisper what it is. And then you're like, oh, but you can't get there until you have a first draft. The same is true with making a movie, right?
Well, also, it just makes me think about, like, one of my favorite elements is just like the demand of embarrassment. I think that is such a powerful detail you put in, but also just thinking of the creative process, the creative act. Like, if you're not thinking, it's death if you think it's great. I mean, like, I'm sorry, like, you're dead in the water. If you're like, I'm great, it's done. Like, it's never done, you know?
No, I still don't think it's great.
You shouldn't. Even though it is. But, like, that's the creative act, right?
Yeah, I you know, in the same way that you make a movie, you shoot a movie over 4 months, out of order. You completely lose sight of what's happening. It's
not even
so
your job.
overwhelming.
You just leave it to the editor, basically.
And then it goes into this process of all of these people looking at it, cutting it, putting in music, changing the lighting, doing reshoots, looking at it, editing it more.
Then it goes on syndication. They have to throw a commercial in the middle of a scene, you know. So it's never. It's
Yeah.
No one owns them.
But it's
Nobody
when
owns them.
it's when a group of people sit down and watch that first cut that they're like, now we know what this movie is. The same is true with writing. You know, when I had a first draft, and then after I edited that first draft, I gave it to some people, my little crew of fellow writers from my grad school program, and I said, please be kind. So, and they were. And then I felt very confident about it. And then I gave it to my agent at the time, who hated it.
Oh my gosh, how does that work?
And I was like, what?
Like, why? Why did they hate it? Do you blocked out? Like,
And how did they
How do
say
you
that?
hate this book?
He didn't relate to the kid. He didn't like his voice.
Uh,
He didn't want this character to take us through this particular story. So then there you go. You know, it's a lot of peaks and valleys. So then for a couple months, I was like, I got nothing if my agent doesn't like it.
Hmm.
But then I was like, oh no. Most of my life has been a perennial middle finger to all kinds of authority. So why not now? So I let that guy go, and I just went on a journey of, you know, I'd already had a book deal. I already had a lot of people that I knew. I just made some phone calls.
good for you.
I made some phone calls.
Was that the same agent as your first book?
Yeah. I made some phone calls, and I said, can you just get this book? Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me? And a series of connections led to this publisher who read it and wanted to take it. So I was able to kind of do this on my own. And we talked about this the other day in our Zoom call. This notion of when you're a writer, when you're an actor, when you're an artist, the systems in which you have to exist, the framework. You need to get headshots. You need to get a self-tape kit for home, proper lighting. You need to lose weight. You need to fix your teeth.
You need a new agent.
You need a new agent. You need to do all of these things to fit into this flowing river of how you're supposed to succeed as an actor. And this stuff, I just naturally turn my back on it or something. It's one of the most frustrating aspects of my life as an artist. And that's in here too. I mean, there's a lot of him, just of them figuring out how to do it their own way. Another big aspect of this book that I wanted to emphasize, especially as pertains to theater and theater kids, is it's not just about acting. There's a whole element of world building in this. For instance, some of the older kids who are in the theater program are heading off, they're going to head off to like Carnegie Mellon and NYU and Juilliard and North Carolina School of the Arts, and they're really, really amazing. Their theater program is amazing. And they very bravely approach them and say, we want your help in building this play. And those kids are like, shut up, you guys are like 13. You know nothing. But they bring on the Santini twins who build a theater in their backyard that has hydraulics under the stage and lights in the trees and subwoofers under the seats and haze and build a score for it and the whole thing about directing. And so there's a huge emphasis on the other aspects of being a theater kid, which is world building, set building, costume design, directing, choreography. Ellie literally plays the seizure.
Yeah.
They figure that out. Kirby's like, I want you to play the seizure. And Ellie, who's a dancer, figures out the language of a seizure just through movement and choreography. So the world building part of it is also, for me, a metaphor for Kirby dealing with what's going on in his family. The separation of his parents, losing his brother to this epilepsy, also being massively in love with Ellie and totally hormonal as a 14-year-old boy would be. So that the framework around it all, the set building, the world building, all of that is speaking to what's going on in his psyche. So the more amazing it becomes, I think the more intimate the reader has, the more intimacy to his psyche. Right?
Well, we were saying before we started that if you haven't read it, that it builds, like the story builds, and probably all of our favorite books live in this, you know, like tempo where it's like dating. If you love bomb someone, it's like it's over. It's in the water. Like, you know, if the first quarter of the book is the best, it's just like whatever. But it started really cooking once all the pieces of the play start to come together, and there's this momentum that runs through the end of the novel that is very enjoyable.
Publishing tends to want you to do it the other way. They want it front loaded, so that beginning half is really strong, so you don't stop reading. Whereas
because we have attention spans of an ant.
Exactly. Whereas for me, I was like, at the midpoint it gets really amazing, and then you want to get to the end, because I think you will remember a really good ending. You will not forgive a bad ending. So that's why, again, I was like, I'm gonna do it kind of a different
So
way.
how many drafts did you do?
Gosh, I mean, I had the first draft, I sent it to friends, I made some tweaks, I then sent it back to them. I had one of my mentors from school be a consulting editor on it. She came back with a ton of notes, and then I sent it to the publisher. They didn't have a lot of editorial notes.
Oh.
They just said, cut stuff. And I said, no. I was like, no, it's the perfect length for a young adult novel. They had suggestions of what they wanted to cut. I'll tell you what they wanted to cut. They wanted to cut the whole barn scene.
Oh my God, that's like my favorite chapter in the book.
I know. I said, no, I'm not cutting the barn.
But that's also like for a theater geek.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like theater heaven in there.
Yeah. I did not want to cut that.
I also like wandering around just hardware stores.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah,
like one
yeah.
of my favorite pastimes.
Me too.
Just wandering around hardware stores.
There's a scene in the book where the Santini twins invite them into like an urban legend of a barn that contains every possible thing you would ever find in any theater
Like a prop
anywhere
house
in the world.
It's like a giant prop house, but it's a barn in the country.
It's like Willy Wonka's
Yes,
chocolate
it's like-
factory,
it's
except it's all theater stuff.
Magic.
And because their father is an award-winning, renowned, he used to be a set designer.
Yeah.
And now he collects stuff from theaters all over the country that are shuttering, which is actually really happening. So it's almost like this weird museum, or a keepsake, or like Doc Brown from Back to the Future in his mad laboratory. It's that kind of thing. And it's a very extensive scene. Like, they go in there and they look at everything, and Kirby looks at everything. Makeup. There's one section of the barn where there's like 1 million chairs and benches, and he's like, I guess there are a lot of chairs on stages. I guess there are a lot of benches and things like that, chairs stacked to the ceiling, and everything that you could possibly want.
It's
So
just the awakening, you know. My son's 13. He's just getting into theater. He is not at face value. Well, I feel like he's a real theater kid, but I think if you met him, he makes not a lot of eye contact, kind of mumbles, and seemingly an introvert, but he has an interior life that's like super rich, you know. And so being an actress, it's like I see him, right? I didn't grow up a theater kid. I was a dancer, but I went to I was so tickled with this book, and I really do want to give it to all his friends, which I plan on doing. Particularly, there are some friends who are dealing with siblings who are going through something similar, and I'm very excited to offer this. But I went to my son's first performance in the spring, and I was so filled up with joy about seeing, especially in this world. I mean, obviously every other article is like, teens are just all depressed, and like the phone is, and which is all true. But it feels very dire as a parent right now with this age group. And when I went to, like, everyone's fun. And so I went to this performance, and it's just this whole group of kids, and just this whole gang was there, and it's a school where they empower the kids, like they're in charge of everything. The kids are directing, they're building the sets, they're all thing, and I walk in and everyone's taking it so seriously. It is so earnest, they are so serious. And my son, who I've never seen do anything like this, I see him, and there's no curtain, he's like rehearsing his lines, walking back and forth, like so vulnerable, so like fearless in his just, to him it was such a private moment that was so real for him. Whether the audience was watching him prepare, it wasn't important to him. Like that's how in it he was. And when I saw that, I was like, that is so cool, you know? And I wasn't that way growing up.
It was like a public-private moment.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like you think
so
about
beautiful.
like these, like, I love how specific this book is. And it might not be for every kid, but like to keep the barn scene in for the right kid is gonna lock in, either open up something that's curious or something that they understand so deeply. And so to fight against a publisher's like homogenous take on like it has to make every kid feel good. It's like the, you know, like it should be super deeply specific. That's the audience you want to have reading this book.
The other thing they wanted to take out, this was astonishing to me. There's a scene where, not to spoil too much, but they do a performance of the play for a group of peers. A lot of them.
They wanted to cut that scene after the talk. They wanted to cut the talk back.
And they have to have a talk back with peers. They have to sit on stage while all of their peers sit in the audience.
But
and
people they don't know.
People they don't know. They're just kids
Their
from,
age. They're
yeah.
like kids from the city. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
kids from the city.
Another school.
And they basically tear them to shreds. It's really harsh.
It is harsh. I hated that.
But it was an opportunity
not-
for them to sit up there and defend their work,
Yeah.
which I thought was really important because one of them, an older student, stands up and says, "Who do you think you are? If you're going to be an actor or you want to do this with your life, you have to write serious plays.
Yeah.
They have to be saying something about society. We have all of this craziness going on in the world, and this is the play that you give us?" And they're like, "What?"
Yeah,
And-
that was Kirby's moment.
Yeah, and Ellie stands up and says, "I'm sorry, but I think writing a play to help somebody with a severe disability is a social justice issue." So there's a lot of, oh, damn! Oh, like there's a lot of hooting and hollering and people farting at them and people being really disrespectful, but they have to stand in their power and completely defend what they did. And I thought that's a really good way to show their growth. Because that's a seminal part of writing a book, especially when you have an ensemble. You don't want to show just the protagonist's narrative arc, but everybody's in a way. And I thought this was a really creative way that sidled into the narrative arc well. And they were like, "I think you can cut that scene." And I was like, oh. My head turned around like The Exorcist. I was like, but it's so important for especially kids this age group who see that to be like, yes, that is what it feels like. You know, I might be bullied at school, or I might be in front of a group of people who don't understand what I'm doing, and how do I deal with that? And I think that scene
Also to
helped.
show middle grade, like, this is exactly right. I mean, I'm seeing it in real time right now, like especially middle school. It's like, where are you going to tip? Are you going to hear someone? I mean, and also developmentally, they like it's appropriate for them to be nasty.
Mhm.
Like it's not like
Mhm.
they have to,
Mhm.
and then they know like touching the fire, like, oh,
Mhm.
that didn't feel good.
Mhm.
Oh, and like, oh, look at that person's face react to my comment. Like, okay, I'm not gonna do that. And
Yeah,
you know,
you can see their
like if we
brain
bubble
figuring
them
it
up
out.
in middle school, like they have to be shitty.
Yep.
And so I think also as like, if I think about middle grade reading this, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be an Ellie.
Mhm.
When the person is like being shitty to my friend, and
Yeah.
rather than just like, you know, I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna defend what I believe in.
Also, yeah, and you see their different reactions to each kid has sort of a different response
Mhm.
to the negativity that they're confronted with.
Yeah.
I want to ask.
Yes, please.
I want to ask you guys, just for fun, who your anti-hero, spooky, scary Freddy Krueger. I want to ask everybody who their Freddy Krueger was, if they have one when they were, because I thought of what mine was and what I learned from it and how traumatizing it was, but also what I learned from it. So I don't want to go first though. Does anybody want to share like something in the horror vein that felt to them either like a receptacle, a projection screen that you could relate to and work with stuff that was inside of you, or something that you were impacted by in an apparently upsetting, scary way that you actually wound up learning from in terms of having it resonate with something that might have been not quite fully conscious?
Love that.
Does that make sense as a question? And you don't have to answer it. It's just popped into my head when we were having that conversation
Yeah.
20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I will start if no one is.
do
Okay,
it.
I will start. Mine was the Elephant Man.
Ah.
I saw that probably too young. And I had a lot of surgery as a kid. So I had nerves about my body, and is it right? Is it normal? Am I okay? And the Elephant Man, I was, I don't think I was yet 12. I think I was 11 years old when I saw that. And there is a sequence in that movie. I don't know, have you guys all seen The Elephant Man? Oh my goodness, okay. It's a David Lynch movie about a man whose name was John Merrick, who had elephantiasis, which is severe disfiguration of his entire body. His head was gigantic, he had a gigantic head, totally messed up face. His body was all out of whack. This is a real story. And he was I don't know how much of the movie is history, because I haven't read a history of John Merrick. But in the story, he winds up at a carnival as a carnival freak. And the carnies are cruel to him. And there is a sequence in the movie where they take him out of his basically cage that's like a, they had like, it's like a, it's on wheels, and it's, has
like a lion
like
cage.
a lion
Yeah.
cage, but it's on wheels so they can travel around. They pull him out of there, and these guys are pouring liquor down his throat because he can't really close his mouth all the way, and they're in a circle and they're moving him. I lost my marbles during that scene. I had to come out of the theater. And it's black and white. David Lynch directed this movie.
A young Anthony Hopkins.
Young Anthony Hopkins is the doctor he winds up with.
Yeah.
And I was basically hysterical.
Yeah.
And my mother was like, "Are you okay? Are you going to be okay? Should we leave?" And I was like, "No," that kind of crying. And my mother was like, "No," and I was like, "No, it's okay." So I went back in, and that was like a highly cathartic experience for me.
Yeah.
In the moment, it was sort of like a freak show, no pun intended, because that's where he was. It was, but in retrospect, I realized it was kind of opening a door to something in me about how I was relating to my experience in a distorted way.
Right.
And the distortion was kind of manifest in the story, and it showed me. So that's what I'm talking about. Does anybody else have
Yeah. Either that or
anybody else have anything like that in their lives?
Or any questions?
Completely
anybody?
traumatized by a story that then they wound up learning from?
Well, it's not a story, but as you've seen, I was not texting. I wrote epilepsy is my monster.
Oh, yes.
And I'll talk to you maybe afterwards a little tiny bit if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm here for the episode, more of the epilepsy part
Yeah.
of the story than,
Yeah.
because I did a little research on you,
Oh,
and so I know you. So yeah, that's my mom's story.
sweet. I'd love to talk about it. Yeah. I've had a few events where the Epilepsy Foundation of Los Angeles.
That's how I found
Oh, great.
out about your book.
Okay. Thanks to them. Yeah. Pretty amazing. Yeah, I reached out to them and I was like, hello, hiya, and they responded so strongly and so supportively. And yeah, and we've been in conversation about doing some things, which is really, really great. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be a book that went to people, not just theater people, but people who have epilepsy or wanted to see some aspect of themselves reflected, even though epilepsy is not the same for everybody, and the way that it's dealt with in this book is different than it might be for another family. I mean, I took a lot of shit for that. You take a lot of shit for everything. Like, you can't, no matter how amazing your work is, flawless or whatever, there's people who are gonna tear you down. And a lot of people were like, this is not epilepsy, this is not how epilepsy is dealt with, this is blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, this is a family who's figuring it out. They don't have every answer from day one, right? So that was a very conscious choice that I made, to not be like, tie it up in a neat little bow and here it is presented in a book. No, there's a process. You have to figure it out. It took my family decades, and we didn't win because it beat us, sadly, right? So I wasn't gonna cookie cut it at all. But a lot of people get very mad at you about that. It's like, that's not my epilepsy. It's like, it's Bax's epilepsy, and it's Kirby dealing with it.
Right.
So the whole point is for you to maybe see another person deal with the same thing that you have, rather than you see 100% the way that we've kind of dealt with something. So I'd love to talk to you about it. I think they're wanting us to wrap up. Does anyone have questions? Do you have any questions or anything you wanted to add or anything like that?
I mean, honestly, I came here for GRIMM, so just want to say, characters are like my favorite characters on the show. Nick was off the rails, and you guys were just always like holding him down in the show.
Right on.
All right.
Yes, I love it. Yeah.
My older son used to watch Grimm. I did not, but he's now 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember him, like, and because he also really loved, there's some books.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, a
Books.
lot of books.
Yeah.
There was actually, like, Brothers Grimm, is that?
Well,
Yeah.
that is
It's-
real. Yeah, for sure.
Well, there's the original Grimm stories, but then they had more modern, and he loved those too. And I was wondering if the show was related to those. The books that were out, like, again, he read them when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And they were modern books, like they were
I
a
don't
new
know
take
about
on
They
the
that.
Grimm.
actually
They were
did a lot of fan. There was. This is like. I had a giggle. I was like, wow. We see no profits from any
Oh,
of
from
it.
the merch.
Because
No,
there
never.
is like a whole fan fiction. So maybe
Yeah.
that's what your son was.
Yeah.
There's like a ton of books that are kind of.
A Tale
spun
Dark
off.
and Grim, maybe? Is that it? That he read?
Maybe.
I think that's it. He read A Tale Dark and Grim, and there's a trilogy box set.
Interesting.
Right,
Yeah, there's a
okay,
lot
let's
of
look it up.
ways to consume the show in different forms.
Yeah, that may be or it may not be.
I don't know. And then I know he watched the show.
yeah.
I think if you're into it, then you probably
It's
have
one
it.
of those shows that, like, if you like it, you really like it.
Nice.
This is something I've said a million times, but I love it anyway. I'm going to repeat myself. I'm going to copy myself. Jerry Garcia said it about the Grateful Dead. He's like, you know, Grateful Dead's like licorice, man. Not a lot of people like licorice, but the people who like licorice really like licorice.
Yeah.
So that's what Grimm is. Not everybody likes it. It's not for everybody. But the people who took to it,
I really
they
love it.
Thanks
took
for
to it
watching
and
the show.
stuck with it.
It was recent too. It only just happened.
Oh, wow.
Several years.
That's super cool. Wow,
Yeah.
right on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
So it's
being
still
here.
out there.
It lives.
If anybody wants to buy a book, are they for sale over here? Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of books over there. Please buy them, because if you don't, guess who has to buy them?
Oh.
I'm buying some books.
Okay, everybody buy books,
All
and
right,
if you
thanks
want,
for
I will,
coming.
Can
I
I
will
ask you
sign
one more
them.
question? So
Yeah.
was the lightning people something your real brother experienced, or did you just completely create that? in
No,
your-
that came through when I was writing.
That's your creation.
A lot of times the act of writing can feel a little bit like being a psychic medium. I felt like I sat down and I was like, okay, I've got this story. It's kind of about theater and it's kind of about epilepsy. Is there anybody out there in the ether that might have a story to tell me? And then Kirby came in very quickly and was like, you're the one who's going to tell my story. I've been waiting for a really long time for somebody to sit down. And I was like, okay. So he came in with all of his stuff. And this happened with my first book too, which is exploring grief. I lost my mom when I was a teenager, and that's a story exploring a young girl who loses her mom, and their family cat starts trying to commit suicide in the wake of the grief, and this coming of age adventure that she goes on. It's based on something that really happened when I was a kid, which is that our cat tried to kill itself after my mom died. And I sat down and I said, I know this is crazy, but this really happened to me when I was a kid. Did it happen to anybody else? And Tess came in. She was like, sit down! And I was like, okay, and wrote it. So there's this alchemical thing that happens when you're a writer. Other writers will know what I mean. And you sort of get possessed. In fact, I'll read passages of this book and be like, who wrote this? I did not write this. I have no memory at all. I'll even go back and see if I can find it in the computer. What date was it that I was writing this? It's a strange, ineffable thing that has its own magic, and I almost don't like to talk about it because I don't want to compromise it. You know, it's like once you talk about it, you compromise it in a weird way. But I don't know who the lightning people are. You would probably know better than I would if you're dealing with epilepsy. It's something. It's something. I know there's something. There's a magic attached to epilepsy that's a lot of people don't understand, and I don't either, but I tried to explore it in this book. So I hope you'll buy it. I'll sign them for you if you like.
I will buy a lot of it.
Thank you. Thank you to the Village Well
Thank you,
for having
guys.
us. Thank you.